And Joe, this morning, you are reporting from outside the site of what was the Auschwitz concentration camp to mark International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We want to remember the terror, the torture, the lives lost there, but also how it all started. Joe?
Well, it is noon here at Auschwitz on this commemoration day. And, you know, Mika, in the age of social media and 24/7 news channels, we've become accustomed to the daily barrage of grim news reports and depressing stories from Uvalde to Ukraine. Conditioned to compartmentalize, we somehow digest the bad news and move on throughout the day. But for anybody who has set foot on the grounds of the Auschwitz death camp, there is no compartmentalizing of emotions. There is no moving on throughout the day. And there's no grasping the unparalleled evil that happened here and culminating in the systemic slaughter of 6 million Jews. How exactly does one comprehend how a country, an army, a single person performed such daily depraved acts on other human beings? And how the scale of these evil actions led to 6 million deaths? It's impossible. We simply cannot. But history does provide an understanding of how such horrors began. It began with a lie, and then more lies, and then the big lie. And in this tragic case, the lie was that Jews lost the First World War for Germany. These lies spread all too easily among Germans and led to Jewish homes and businesses being vandalized, led to Jews being singled out in those businesses and in schools, and led to a permissive attitude toward creeping anti-Semitism until the lies and the stigmatism of Jews led step by step by step to deportations, to executions, and to extermination. This first chapter of the Holocaust against the Jewish people is why we're here, to remind ourselves that anti-Semitism can never be allowed to find safe harbor again in polite society, whether on elite college campuses, on social media platforms, or in country clubs with former presidents. Passive acceptance invites violence. Holocaust survivor and Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal warned that, quote, "Violence is like a weed. It does not die, even in the greatest drought." And he warned President Carter in the White House in 1980 that Hitler and Stalin are alive today. They are waiting for us to forget, because in forgetting, we make possible the resurrection of these monsters. So it is that on these grounds, in this gathering today, this Holocaust Museum bears daily witness to what happened here and across Europe not so long ago. Mr. Wiesenthal wrote at the end of his life that his entire life of hunting down Nazis was driven by a singular focus: to send a warning to the murderers of tomorrow. You will never rest. And neither should we. Never rest, never forget. Willie?
And as you say, Joe, these issues and anti-Semitism newly resident right now. President Biden is vowing to keep up efforts to stamp out anti-Semitism in the United States. In a statement on this day, the president writes in part, "Sadly, we have seen over and over again that hate never goes away. It only hides, waiting to reemerge whenever it is given just a little bit of oxygen. And today, across our country, we are seeing swastikas on cars, anti-Semitic banners on bridges, verbal and physical attacks against Jewish businesses and Jewish Americans, even Holocaust denialism." The president continued on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and every day, the United States stands with Holocaust victims, their families, and their descendants. We remember. We honor their stories. We will face down the hate and the lies that carry in them the terrifying echoes of one of the worst chapters in human history. And Joe, you've been in Warsaw now for a couple of days. I know you were in the Warsaw Ghetto yesterday, got a sense of the place. Now standing outside of Auschwitz, I'm just curious, What does it feel to be there, particularly on this day?
Well, you know, not so long ago, I think it would have felt almost like ancient history. It just simply does not now, in part because the specter of war hangs over the people of Warsaw, the people of Poland, and the people of Eastern Europe. They are seeing to the east of them a war that resembles World War I, World War II, and it's always present in their minds. They've accepted millions of refugees into their country, millions of refugees into their homes, and anti-Semitism in Europe, across America, far more pronounced, far more public than it's been in quite some time. There's, you know, Willie, we've always seen creeping anti-Semitism across Europe and across our country, but it has become far too prevalent of late, whether it's been with extremely popular music stars, whether it's been with social media sites inviting neo-Nazis back on to their platform, whether it's been ex-presidents inviting neo-Nazis into their home, into their clubs. It's become far more prevalent. That gives permission. That gives permission and invites a permissive attitude towards anti-Semitism that leads to far too many acts of anti-Semitism taking place across this country. One of my children called earlier this week and talked about how a friend's dorm room, the door of the dorm room, a Jewish girl, had a swastika put on it earlier this week. And multiply that out hundreds of times, thousands of times a week, a month. And we see, again, we must never rest. We must never forget. And you just can't being here. It is remarkable. And it is a reminder. Again, Willie, the thing that I just haven't been able to grasp, and I don't think anybody can grasp, is the totality of this evil. But again, by focusing on how it began in Germany in 1933, 1934, 1935, we can see the warning signs for our country, the warning signs for the rest of the world.
Well, the perils that we face today, part of the reason why you are there right now, Joe. Give us a sense of what else we can expect to see in the 4 hours to come on Morning Joe. I understand you'll be talking to the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff.
Yeah, the second gentleman is here. He has toured. He's taken a tour of Auschwitz already this morning. He is touring the area throughout the day and going to a service. It happens every year, a commemorative service. You saw a picture of him there with your brother, Ambassador Mark Brzezinski, who of course comes to this event now every year. And this is very personal for Doug for so many reasons, but he's going to be spending time here, and is going to also go to an ancestral home here, a family of his, a Jewish family of his who lived here throughout the war. So I'll be talking to Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, later on this morning, and we'll have that for you.
Joe, we'll look forward to that conversation coming up in just a little bit, and we'll see much more of you throughout the morning.
Thank you.